I never imagined that a single evening could change the course of my life forever. I never imagined that the person waiting for me at a dimly lit cafe, their presence calm but commanding, could also be the face behind every major decision, every strategy, every dream I'd worked so hard to believe in. That night, as I walked into the softly glowing room, the world seemed to narrow down to a single point of focus, him. My heart pounded, not just from nerves, but from the strange sense of déjà vu, as if fate itself had orchestrated this impossible meeting. I went on a blind date, and it was my CEO. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the unpredictability of life, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, The Kindness Chronicles. I had been convinced by my best friend that blind dates were the perfect escape from the monotony of work, a chance to meet someone completely outside the rigid, glass-walled world I spent my days in. I agreed half-heartedly, more out of exhaustion than hope. My life had become a cycle of meetings, deadlines, and fleeting moments of joy. I rarely stepped outside the boundaries I'd drawn for myself. And yet, sitting there in my simple dress, nervous fingers tapping against the edge of my cup, I felt a surge of daring I hadn't known I possessed in years. The moment he walked in, something inside me froze and then shifted in ways I couldn't immediately understand. He was dressed casually, yet the quiet confidence he carried was unmistakable. His smile was gentle, unassuming, yet it seemed to recognize parts of me I didn't even know existed. Every anecdote, every laugh we shared over trivial stories about our childhoods, work mishaps, and secret fears, was layered with an intensity one couldn't quite name. There was a magnetic tension in the air, a pull that was impossible to ignore. I felt seen in ways that transcended professional hierarchies, yet at the same time, an invisible wall of apprehension loomed between us. As the night progressed, I noticed the smallest details, the way he tucked a loose strand of hair behind his ear, the quiet way he listened as if absorbing not just words but the essence of thoughts. There was warmth in his eyes, but also a guardedness that suggested he too carried invisible burdens. I realized I was drawn to him not because of titles or appearances, but because of a shared sense of vulnerability. And yet, there was a secret hovering between us that neither of us dared to speak aloud. I could feel it, sharp and unrelenting, the unthinkable truth that would redefine the lines of my life and career. The realization struck me like a lightning bolt halfway through dessert. The coffee-scented air seemed suddenly heavier, every laugh we shared now tinged with irony and disbelief. This was the man whose quarterly reports I analyzed, whose directives shaped the lives of hundreds of employees, whose decisions dictated the course of our company. And here he was, sitting across from me, laughing at my slightly clumsy recounting of a failed cooking experiment. My chest tightened, panic and fascination wrestling for dominance. Could I really let myself see him as just a man tonight, when tomorrow we would resume the roles we had carefully maintained for years? I struggled to concentrate, to remain grounded in the moment. My mind raced with hypotheticals, the whispers of colleagues, the implications for my career, the impossibility of letting a blind date transcend the boundaries of corporate hierarchy. I wanted to push him away, to remind myself that he was untouchable, unreachable. And yet, the more I tried to detach, the more inexplicably drawn I felt to his authenticity. There was a rawness in his laughter, a tenderness in his voice that peeled back years of professional armor, revealing a man who, like me, carried dreams that often felt too fragile for the world outside. The night ended with a quiet stroll along the riverbank, the city lights dancing on the water like fragmented memories. I felt the weight of unspoken truths pressing down on us, yet there was a delicate ease in the silence. For a fleeting moment, I let myself imagine a life where titles didn't matter, where the world outside the bubble of that evening ceased to exist. And in that moment, I realized that vulnerability was not weakness, it was courage. It was the courage to embrace uncertainty, to trust that a heart could navigate spaces that the mind deemed impossible. The following weeks were a delicate dance of emotions and restraint. I couldn't ignore him, yet I couldn't fully acknowledge what had happened. Every encounter at work was layered with tension, a mix of longing and fear. I caught him watching me in moments of quiet reflection, sharing a knowing glance that spoke volumes. The professional distance we maintained was punctuated by small gestures, an unexpected compliment, a hand offered in passing, a shared smile across the conference room. Each gesture chipped away at the walls we had carefully constructed, revealing a connection that felt both terrifying and exhilarating. Slowly, I learned the story behind his guardedness. He had known the weight of expectation from a young age, carrying the burden of leadership and the fear of losing himself in the process. His kindness was not performative, it was hard-earned, a reflection of a soul that had learned to navigate the harshness of the world with grace and humility. And in that, I found my own fears mirrored, my own longings recognized. It was a delicate interplay of hearts, a mutual recognition of fragility, and an unspoken vow to honor it rather than suppress it. We began meeting outside the structured confines of work, cautiously at first, as if testing the waters of a reality that felt too good to be true. The world we built in stolen moments, coffee runs, evening walks, quiet dinners, became a sanctuary. And in that sanctuary, I realized that the truest connection is forged not through grand gestures, but through authenticity. It's in the whispered confessions, the shared silences, the recognition of each other's scars without judgment. I found myself falling, not into the fantasy of a CEO and an employee, but into the raw, unpolished humanity of a man who had captivated my heart from the very first glance. Months passed, and with each passing day, the impossible became tangible. We navigated the complexities of work and love with honesty and courage, learning to compartmentalize without erasing the connection that had begun in secrecy. And one evening, as we watched the sunset bleed into the horizon, I realized that life's most beautiful stories often begin with the most unexpected encounters. The blind date that had terrified me, that had challenged my notions of hierarchy, fear, and vulnerability, had transformed into a journey of self-discovery, trust, and unwavering hope. I want you to pause here and take a deep breath with me, because this story isn't just about romance, it's about courage, about taking risks when the world tells you not to, about finding humanity in places you least expect. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that second chances exist and that kindness can transform lives, please engage with this video. Like it, share it, and comment below about a time when life surprised you in the most unexpected way. Your stories matter, and your hearts can inspire others just as this story has touched yours. Because in the end, the blind date was more than just an encounter, it was a lesson. A reminder that life doesn't always follow the rules we set for it, that love and connection often arrive in the spaces between fear and courage, and that sometimes, the most extraordinary people are the ones we never expected to meet. That night, I learned to embrace the unknown, to trust my instincts, and to open my heart fully, even when it seemed impossible. And in doing so, I discovered not just love, but the profound beauty of life itself.